The next morning, the rain was a relentless drumming on the roof, a somber warning I failed to heed. I gathered my books, pulled on my heavy hoodie, and walked out into the Seattle mist, leaving my sanctuary unguarded. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, the architect began her work. Gina went up to my room and unlocked the door. I can imagine the clinical coldness of her movements as she crossed the threshold into the only space that is mine. She began a calculated search of her own. Her eyes scanned the piles of textbooks and the unmade bed. It didn't take long to find the truth in my small room. She started with the closet. On the far side, tucked away behind my heavy winter coats and flannel shirts, she found my mother's outfits hanging. These were my relics, the only physical connection I had left to the woman who loved me without conditions. To Gina, they were just evidence. On the floor, she discovered the gym bag that housed underwear and tights. I can almost hear her sharp intake of breath, not out of shock, but out of a dark, predatory satisfaction. She might have stopped there. She tried to assume, as I would have, that it was simply overflow that everyone had forgotten. But Gina doesn't settle for assumptions. She dug under the bed, and there she found what she needed to convince me to leave the house. For good. She pulled out the plastic storage bin. Not full, but containing my new outfits that I had taken from her. The lace, the silk, the delicate things I obtained with trembling hands. All of it was laid bare under her cold, judgmental gaze. She was angry, of course, feeling violated, but she is a master of the mask. If I had walked in at that moment, I would never know it from her facial expression. Instead of anger and rage, she wore a sinister smile, a look that would make anyone nervous, especially a naive, submissive young man like me, who was trying to keep a dangerous secret. I spent the next day at school in a fog, unaware that my world had already collapsed. I sat in the library, watching the rain streak the windows, thinking about my therapy session. I was looking forward to the evening, to the moment I could lock my door and talk to the girl in the mirror. I didn't know that the girl had already been evicted. By the time I returned home, Gina had a plan to get exactly what she wanted and have fun doing it. I walked through the front door, shaking the water from my umbrella. The house was quiet, but it wasn't the peaceful silence of an empty home. It was the heavy, expectant silence of a trap. "Long day, Brian?" Gina's voice drifted from the kitchen, sweet as poisoned honey. "No more than usual," I whispered, keeping my head down. "Come in here, please," she said. I walked into the kitchen, my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. She was standing by the counter, a glass of wine in her hand, that sinister smile playing on her lips. She looked at me not as a stepson, but as a problem she had finally solved. "I think it's time we try and patch things up," she said softly, her eyes locking onto mine. "What do you mean?" I asked, distracted by the sound of meat sizzling in a skillet on the stove. "I think we never got a chance to know each other. I was replacing someone you didn't want replaced. Neither did your sister. In a few months, I'll be gone too, so it doesn't really matter now, does it?" I asked, showing what little bit of courage I had. "I don't think it would be right to end as enemies. Do you?" "Like I said, what does it matter? What if we started over?" she asked. "Why?" Trying to be defiant to the end. "Let's not fight. I can give you something you will never forget," she said as she finished cooking the steak and placed it on a plate. "What's that?" he asked. "We'll talk about it tomorrow. Eat and get some rest," she said as she placed the plate in front of me. The blood drained from my face. I felt the submissive weight in my chest turn into a leaden anchor, pulling me down toward the floor. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe, and certainly couldn't eat. I sat there for about an hour until the food got cold, then wrapped everything up and put it in the fridge before going up to my room. I stood at the window, my door wide open, staring out at the Seattle winter that had finally found its way into the neighborhood, while the architect of my exile was preparing to show me the door.